Hi everyone, it's Raymond Wood from the Professional Player Pathway for our monthly Zoom meeting. A big thank you for joining us online this evening. We know it's normally the first Friday of the month, but with us being in London for the Champions League final, we wanted to do the Zoom call whilst we were in London. So a big thank you for those boys and girls and mums and dads and players who've joined us. I'm just going to share a little bit where we are. So we're on the prestigious Regent Street in London. We've been here most of the week filming content. We've done over 50 videos for our portal. And also we've got some exciting news about our new app that's going to be going live in the next 6 to 12 months as well. So we've got some more exciting news. We're also going to introduce you to our special guest tonight. We're just going to say a big thank you to the guys who are looking after us today. So we've got the guys at Cafe Concerto looking after us, giving us our coffees here today. And we said we'd give them a bit of a free punch. So when this goes out and gets edited, we'll share it with everyone. You'll probably notice there's a lot of Real Madrid fans and Borussia Dortmund fans going behind us as well at the moment. So we're going to get straight into it now. I believe our special guest is with us on the line. Now, I've known this person for probably 18 years. I met Stewart Briggs when I first moved to Australia, and the work that he's done over the years and I've seen is absolutely phenomenal. I've actually used Stewart firsthand with my daughter, my eldest daughter, Liv, on her tennis journey, and he's a big part of her success to date. So good evening and a good morning from London. Stewart, are you with us?
Yeah, mate. Gotcha. Looking forward to chatting.
Thanks for joining us. So Stewart, just for our listeners, if you could maybe just give us a little bit of a brief background, just for 2 to 3 minutes, on how you first got involved in sports, what your upbringing was like, where you were born, and just to give everyone a little bit of a background of yourself.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Ray, I'm a Queenslander through and through originally. So I'm from, I was born in Bundaberg, grew up in Biggin, which is outside of Bundaberg. Then moved in 85, moved out to halfway between Chinchilla and Mandubra. Went to the most isolated school in Queensland. Lived on a cattle station out there. My parents are cattle graziers. Whole family's that way for hundreds of years. And then basically went to boarding school in Rockhampton, went to university in Lismore. I was very lucky to go to university at the best strength power research university in the world at the time. It was just sheer luck. But then I made the most of it by volunteering into lots of research studies on certain aspects of training, particularly plyometrics, vertical jump training, power training. Went to the US and did an exchange at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. It's about 2 hours south of Detroit. That's a Division I college. End up going back there and doing my Master of Education degree there. And I specialize in developmental kinesiology, which is kinesiology is the study of human movement, and developmental over the lifespan. So I did all my work with 18 to 22-year-old college athletes, and then I did all my study on pediatric training of children, because I had a vision when I went to America that I wanted to work with athletes from the bottom of the pyramid all the way up to the top. So I went to America, worked as an assistant strength coach. I was the first Australian to ever be a professional strength conditioning coach in the US. Ended up becoming the head strength coach at Drake University. Both those colleges were big soccer colleges, and enjoyed my time working with football. But obviously my big sports there were American football, basketball, ice hockey, baseball, but worked with football quite extensively. And I did a lot of speed work there. So in the year 2000, came back to Australia and started Acceleration Australia. And that's over 23 years of training athletes at Acceleration Australia, and literally trained thousands upon thousands. I'd say we'd be over 100,000 athletes. My database is so big, I actually can't tell you the number that we've worked with yet, but I want to actually go back on archives because my goal is to work with 1 million athletes before I retire. I'm only 50 years of age, so I've got a lot of years ahead of me. So I'm very passionate about it. I've got 25 coaches that work for me. And as we discovered the other day when I was sending out an email to all my football players, I've got thousands of football players that have worked with us over just the last short little while. So And I'm very proud to say I sent out that email, Ray, and you know, mentioned our ongoing partnership that we're announcing and so forth in terms of eighth pillar and different things like that. And the positive emails I got back from people going, yeah, we already work with Ray. Ray was actually the one that told us about you years ago, and we love love the training and stuff. So like, that's what I'm passionate about. Like, I want to be involved with top class. As I said to them in the email, I said, this is world class. And the amount of parents that came back to me, gee, thanks for thinking of me and so forth. So there's young football players that want to, and parents that want to have guidance, because it's very difficult to sort of sieve their way through the fabric of football in Australia. So, mate, really proud to be with you.
Nah, that's amazing. So you've definitely got a few qualifications in the bag, and you've got a bit of background. So it sounds like you know what you're talking about a little bit.
Just a little bit, mate. It's a passion of life. That's yeah, I'm one of those unusual people.
We recently, I went on a retreat a couple of months ago to Bali in Indonesia, and in the past, when I've heard about retreats, I thought, oh, this sounds like just a holiday where you go and put your feet up. And it wasn't anything like that whatsoever. It was up at 6 a.m. in the morning. It was working out. It was yoga. It was Pilates. It was meditation. We didn't get to bed till midnight every night. And it was all about self-discovery, and it was all based around purpose. And exactly what you've just spoke about is basically, you've just given us in 5 minutes what your purpose in life is. I mean, there's not too many people out there who've got a goal as lofty as you want to work with 1 million athletes in your lifetime, because you want to affect 1 million athletes. And that's exactly what we're looking to do with the professional player pathway. We're trying to make mums and dads and players actually realize that it is possible. You can actually make it as a professional, and it just requires hard work. You obviously need the right pathway to follow down. It's so pleasing to hear like what you've just been saying, and what's going on within your working industry. Now, obviously, for everyone to understand, you're currently based in Brisbane. That's where your offices are located. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, but because I'm from country Queensland, I started out lifting weights in 1988 when no one else was lifting. There were 2 other guys that lifted in the school. My workout partner actually was an overweight, underachieving second rower in rugby. And he and I started lifting when we were in grade 10. And we didn't know what we were doing, mate. We just had these dumbbells manufactured from a mining engineering. Yeah, so 2 ball bearings from big mining machines welded onto a steel pipe that my dad did for me. And we lifted and did stuff lifted arms until I couldn't actually brush my teeth, and I couldn't even put my sheets down. I'd have to lie down in bed without arms and stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. But that guy, his name was Todd Lynch. And Todd Lynch became the fastest kid in the school, one of the fastest kids in the area, and became captain of Australia within 2 years. And he was the captain of the Australian schoolboys rugby, which is one of the biggest deals in the whole of Australia sport back in the 90s. And he started out as only just making Central Queensland, you know. So, and he went from being the starting number 8, where he was so mobile, fast, explosive, everything else. I became a better basketball player. I just didn't become that good, you know? So you can tell the difference, but the difference that I felt within myself and how much better it made me as a basketball player was immense. And so I could see the difference, what I could do to an average athlete and make that person above average. And then I saw a guy who was underachieving above average athlete became phenomenal, like top class, where he went to Europe and played professionally there and so forth. And that's where the two meet, right? So yeah, look, that was my beginning, actually. It was before I even did a degree. I experienced it firsthand, what strength and conditioning could do for an athlete. Obviously, imagine if it could be a little bit better training, it was going to be a lot better response. So.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the results. That was the whole reason and why I started the professional player pathway, because after working in the Premier League for teams like Liverpool and Leicester City, I realized that with the right amounts of work and consistency, anyone can make it in any sport. Now, obviously, we know, you know, if you're only ever going to be 4 foot 5 inches tall, it's going to be against you if you're going to make it as an NBA basketball player. We get that. But
Yeah.
Just talking a little bit now about your program and the programs that you offer. So Acceleration Australia, and I love this because hopefully I've got the motto right, but it might be wrong. Correct me. But it's about making players fitter, faster, stronger. Is that the motto?
Yeah, it's really similar to that. So it's actually the same motto. I actually didn't know that for the Olympics, but to help athletes move faster, get stronger, and jump higher for sporting competition. So I think in the Olympics is faster, stronger, higher, which is exactly the same thing. And that what I love about that is, and I'll talk about the online stuff later, but the big thing for me is faster. So our logos are Running Man. Everything's about speed, and we just signed with View Motion, which is AI generation, video analysis, and it can be done at home, any home in the world, and it is absolutely blowing up, where it gives us feedback, and we are able to write programs individualized to that person anywhere in the world. So people are catching on that speed is the most important thing, but the quality of movement, just not how fast the person moves, which we'll get the analysis from, but also the quality of movement, angles, everything else, so we can actually help people.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to hear you say that, because one of the big talking points that we had in England back in the Premier League, and I've been around a few clubs the past week or two since we've been back in Europe, was the key word, the buzzword at the moment is being as efficient as possible as you can. Whether that's a technical movement with the ball, whether it's a technical movement off the ball, whether it's running 10 meters, the key buzzword at the moment. And I think we've known it, you've known it for 20 plus years, being as efficient as possible. And if you've got to get from A to Z to try and get there as efficiently as possible. And that's exactly what you guys do, isn't it?
Correct. So one of the biggest things that I had a light bulb moment, say 12 to 13 years ago, through a swimming physio, actually, a physio that referred Libby Trickett to me, who became the fastest female swimmer in the world back a long time ago, and I trained her for 5.5 years. He was the physio that dealt with Kieran Perkins, Haley Lewis, Grant Hackett, all the top highline swimmers. And he showed me DNS, which actually comes from the Prague School of Rehab, so from Czech Republic. And essentially, it's all about, it was a light bulb moment. It was crazy. And that's the sort of stuff that we do, is we'll do an analysis of whether someone's breathing properly and everything else, so that when someone's foot hits the ground, they propel and they have full efficiency of movement. It is ridiculous, the difference. Efficiency is number one. And that's what a lot of people are looking for when they watch the beautiful game of football. They want to see smooth movements. They don't want to see robotic movements. And that's what our young athletes want and parents want. They want to watch their son or daughter play, or the athlete wants to play. They want to be smooth in their movements, skill movements, obviously, but running movements as well, and everything else.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like a lot of people ask me, is they say, like, you know, who's the best player on the planet? Is it Ronaldo? Is it Messi? And, you know, my opinion's always been it's been Ronaldo. One, because of the age he is and he's still playing at such a high level. But also, like, one of the key things a lot of people forget, like, it's super important to have lots of touches of the ball. You need to be familiar with the ball. You need to be technically proficient with the ball. But also, what a lot of people forget is 99% of the job we do on the football pitch is without the ball, which involves movements, decelerating, accelerating. And that's exactly what you do. And this is what I say to people. It's so important to add something like this into your training program. Now, question I've got for you, Stu, and I know the answer, but just for our listeners, are you more on the side of talents made, or is it born?
Oh, no, it's made. 100%. 100%. Like, I've watched it. It's sad to see, you know, really talented athletes just absolutely blow whatever chances they have by how they go about their preparations and so forth on a daily fashion. But the one thing I love about talent made rather than like created over time or whatever, is that these are things that we put into place. I'm really big on habits, really massive, like, because it'll fold into not just football, but for the rest of their lives. So you're making a difference, not just in football, but for the rest of their lives. They will go back to that experience that they've had with you, Ray, in terms of how they apply themselves with skills, as they do with our strength conditioning. I don't even like using the word strength conditioning, performance training. So we help people run better, that sort of thing. They go through those processes of getting up early and working out, or whatever they've got to do. Every habit that they build is going to make a difference to a better life, because things are going to make them, you know, better in their processes to become high performing, whatever profession.
Yeah, nah, it's phenomenal. Now, in regards to our followers and listeners who are online from our professional player pathway, this is a unique Zoom call. Only the member base of our professional player pathway can join this call and get to see it. So we love bringing on the top professionals in the sports world. We literally come from all different parts of the world to run these Zoom events. We're very excited. We've both of us have worked in the USA over the years. We're actually going to be doing one from the USA
Wow.
in August. We're going to be doing a huge tour to Canada, to Toronto, New York, Chicago. The person we've got online in the USA is going to blow everyone's minds when we tell them as well. And this is one of the things that we're trying to bring. This is one of the issues I've got in Australia, is that we love volunteers, and we appreciate volunteers all around the world, whether it's in Australia, the USA. But unfortunately, football in Australia is riddled by a lot of volunteers who are guessing at things and guessing how to develop players. And this is what the whole reason why we brought this Zoom call section, and one of the pillars to the program is to make sure when they're speaking to someone like Stewart Briggs, they're getting the right information, because you've been in the game for 25 years. Do you find that can be a little bit like that in your industry, within your sector, that you get a lot of people are guessing at stuff and they're not really going with the professionals, so to speak?
So string dishing's like gone through this different evolutions. So I'll give you my quick evolution and then where the rest of the industry is. So, all right. So in America, when I first arrived there, my background was in strength power research. And then I got experience working with American football, ice hockey, all that sort of stuff. And I saw more bodybuilding slash powerlifting sort of mentality, because it was a very American football influence. And then I brought in new elements where I did a lot of research on ACL rehabs and injury prevention. So I went through a very rehabby, sort of very technical, very scientific. I read a lot and I researched a lot. Then I applied what I learned and made it better. So I was the first one in America to use Excel spreadsheets to create weights and everything's individualized to football players and stuff. So that was great. So started to get away from the archaic stuff. When I came back to Australia in the year 2000, everything was very volunteer. I was the first actual sports performance company in Australia. So I've been the first of a lot. I was the youngest strength coach in the US. I was the first Australian. I was small, light, never played American football, but the football players loved me. Why? I got them results. I got the biggest, baddest football player, grabbed him, outside linebacker named Jim Macris, said, come here, I'll do a session with you. He was the strongest guy in the entire university, and he went back to every guy and goes, you need to listen to Coach Briggs. He's amazing, this and that. We then went ahead and won every football game for the next year and a half, and just made a massive difference. Got a standing ovation at a football thing, all because I made them lift properly in season. I made them do conditioning that the Americans weren't used to in season. And I just did things that differently from every other American because I came in from the outside. Came to Australia, very volunteer based, had to explain to people, look, you need to pay for this. And, you know, it's not just average strength conditioning. So strength conditioning has a very bodybuilding background, Olympic lifting background. That's why so many football players, being soccer players, haven't liked strength conditioning in the past, is it's too lifting orientated and it doesn't make them faster, and frankly, doesn't make them better. And even to this day, we're getting people coming to see us, AFL, female AFL player, going, oh, we trained at this place for a year and a half. I didn't get any faster. I didn't get any more athletic. We kept doing weights and stuff like that. I said, that's because you weren't doing the right training. You've got to learn how to move, and that takes a little while. And I think, look, I'm really passionate about it, but I presented, I was the first Australian at the ASCA conference in Australia about 15 years ago to present on movement. I did video analysis of movement and say, this is what you should be doing. No one else listened to me. Now it's one of the biggest topics, is everyone's talking about movement and that sort of stuff. But they still haven't caught on, right? They all just love these big weight rooms, and they'll shoot clips of these big weight rooms and everything. And that puts off kids, that puts off parents. Or they think that, oh, maybe we should do junior CrossFit or something. I went, no, you'd almost be better off just playing football and don't do CrossFit. So that's the evolution of strength and conditioning, is they're finally learning that movement analysis is everything. Then what you do with the analysis, train, get better. If you don't get better, learn, make changes, get better. If you're not getting better, then what are you doing? You know, so that's where the evolution is.
And I love that. And that's one of the evolutions that we do, that I've understood and realized for many years, that this is possible. You can make it as a professional and be an athlete in many, many sports if you choose to do so. But also, I think you'll confirm as well, Stuart, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes 5 to 10 years to get there, to make it from being maybe 10 and 11 to getting through to 18, 19, 20. And I say to all our athletes, and I love our families with us, that they trust in me that this is going to work as long as they apply themselves. And the whole reason we've got the 7 pillars to the program is if they follow the 7 pillars, they record it in the portal. We've got an exciting announcement about the new app that's launching next year. If they follow this through, this is why I can guarantee the players will make it if they follow it through, as long as they stay fit and healthy. And we're so lucky that we've got a huge following of families now and players joining the program, and it's gaining momentum. But the problem we had was 3 or 4 years ago, coming out of COVID, you get a lot of the naysayers knocking us, a lot of people saying stuff online, but it's like, it's all good and well doing it in the UK, where we're blessed with all the facilities and we've got all the money of the Premier League, but can you do it in Australia? And that's why we went away and done the case study. And we've done the case study for 3 years, and the 5 players we put through all went on and made it. And we've got more and more athletes who are now signing pro scholarships and contracts with clubs in the UK. Wow. Now, Stuart, just to talk a little bit about your program. So any of our listeners who wants to do anything with Acceleration Australia, obviously, if you are based in Southeast Queensland, you can reach out to Stewart. We have got some exciting news. We are going to be forming a full partnership with Acceleration Australia. And the guys on the Zoom call with us tonight, or who watch this back in the next couple of days, we are super excited to announce that Acceleration Australia will become the 8th pillar to the program. Are you as excited as us, Stuart, for this partnership?
Mate, I'm beyond excited, and you don't even know the groundswell from my perspective. You got to understand, this is what. So I'm from country Queensland. I'm 115 kilometers from any town. I did not get coaching. So I could have been way better as an athlete, right? So I started building a software called Accelerate 22 years ago on the cloud, when I was putting videos up of my exercises before you could actually see the videos. So I started building an online software for online programs. We broke the 50,000 program barrier about 10 years ago. We've been doing online programs 16 years approximately. So the reason why I did online programs is so anyone could train a very detailed, very extensive program from anywhere in the world, not with you don't even need super deluxe equipment all the time. You do need some equipment, of course, when you're getting into some of the aspects, but relatively low equipment in a lot of aspects through different levels, and you'll need different equipment, but very, very attainable. So that means that we've been building this to be ready for this event 22 years ago. I started building it, mate. You know what I mean? So then we throw in AI with our View Motion, which is built in Australia. The owner has just moved to America because it is that big. They just signed with Major League Baseball. Every scout in the US will use View Motion to analyze the running of their baseball players to get ready for the MLB. So if that gives you any indication, that's who we're tied in with. And they said they're so excited to sign with us, meaning we're part of View Motion, and Acceleration Australia is regarded as one of the premier speed training companies in the entire world. There's one in the UK called Speedworks, there's one in the US called Altus, and there's one in Australia called Acceleration Australia. If that gives you any indication, that shows you how excited I am about being part of your Football's about speed, mate. When my son plays FIFA, the first players he picks a lot of times is pace. He looks at pace, mate. Pace is important, you know. And imagine your skills that you're building, and people, it does take years. People don't want to hear it. It literally takes years. It does take years, but it's worth it, right? because like players like I mentioned the other day on your podcast, 5 years Connor Budrick, AFL player, trained with us, and he was the fastest guy in the AFL draft. And that got him a very high position in the draft because they really respect speed in the AFL. Same thing in football, right? You throw in the skill, obviously skills is a given. You've got to do all the work for skills, but you add pace to that. Oh man.
It's scary. It's scary. Like, I mean, we look at the Premier League now, you know, admittedly it's the best league on the planet. And there's a reason why it's the best league, because we've now got athletes in those Premier League teams. We never used to call them athletes, they were football players, but it's funny how the terminology and the communications changed. That football players are now known as athletes. They're not known as football players anymore. And if you were to ask me, what's the change I've seen in the past 10, 15 years in the game in Europe in general? It's that we've always been able to play football in Europe, but they're now athletes as well. They can move quicker than anyone. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, when we done a visit to Manchester City in January this year,
Wow.
and the first team at Manchester City, every single player in our first team squad can run the 100 meters as pretty much damn close to 11 seconds, which is like unbelievable. Like, for a football player, and we're talking football boots on the grass. And that's
Wow.
the speed that these players are moving to. Now, the pleasing thing for us is one of the big problems we had with the professional player pathway was we wanted anyone to be able to access this. You've spoken about it, whether you live in regional Queensland, you live in regional Victoria. We've got athletes on the program now in the US. We're going to have athletes from Canada. We want this to be able to be reached by any player, no matter where you are, and you can train yourself to be the next football superstar. Now, can you talk a little bit about, you've just spoke about it, but is there any limitations with your program? Do you have to be face-to-face, or is this eighth pillar we're going to install going to be completely remotely based as well?
No, completely remotely based. That's why I went so heavy into this AI analysis of running, is that was the missing link. We just didn't have that aspect. We had the ability for the athletes to videotape themselves, and we did do that, and it helped us help them. But they can do the programs fully online. This isn't just, we've been doing it for 22 years, obviously, but we have contracts with the NBL referees. All 25 referees train with us all year round online. So as long as the players actually are willing to do the work, that's the only thing, because obviously we can't hold their hand in each session, but the players will be able to do it. They'll be able to videotape themselves if they're concerned about technique, send that through our app or whatever, and our coaches can see them lift and everything else. So definitely able to do it 100% online, 100% able to be supported, because they can have meetings with coaches and so forth, just to make sure that they're being supported.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Now, we're about to get to the Q&A part. I've just got one more question to ask you before we do, but for all of our listeners currently tuned in, if you can drop in your questions to Stewart, and anything related to speed, acceleration, strength and conditioning, anything related that links into football, please drop your questions in. Now, Shelley is back in Brisbane in the office, and Shelley is going to send me these questions via WhatsApp, so the power of technology. And I'm going to read out these questions to you, Stu. So I know you're very busy, mate, but are you okay to hang on for another 10 or 15 minutes and go through some questions?
I'm here for you guys.
No, that's amazing. Now, just one final thing. Now, we're obviously going to announce the eighth pillar early part of next year. We're also going to do a big announcement from the USA whilst we're there as well. But because we're here for the Champions League final, and I know you follow a little bit of football, Stuart, what's your prediction for the game? Are you going to go with the Germans, who would all be army in yellow, or are you going to go for Real Madrid?
Wow.
And I'm getting worried because we're not seeing many Real Madrid fans. We're seeing a lot of Borussia Dortmund fans.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with the favourites, Real Madrid, mate. I think they're going to have to mess it up to lose it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I think Real Madrid have been here too many times and done it and got the T-shirt. And I've been privy to it twice over the past 5 or 6 years when they've beaten Liverpool twice. But I think experience, and it goes back to everything we've just been speaking about, is experience, knowledge, being there, done the hard yards, and it pays off in the end.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see. It's always makes it interesting, though. I'm kind of keen to see if Dortmund can make a big difference. See if they can get it done.
Yeah, Nah. Now, I'm going to get to some questions. Our first question we've got, and they're coming in from Shelley. So thank you, Shelley, for sending them across to me. Stewart, does your program apply to a young athlete interstate?
Yes, it does. Obviously, we talked about the online, but the big thing for me is we've done this a lot of times. Yes, interstate, we've done it a lot of times for athletes.
Amazing. Now, I've got a great question from Jake Watson-Roddy from Brisbane. He's one of our goalkeepers, and he's going to be away with us in the next 12 months to the UK.
Oh, yeah.
What are the best agility exercises for a goalkeeper? Is there any that you can recommend?
Yeah, look, definitely plyometric. So goalkeeper is the most athletic person on the pitch, technically. They've got to be very explosive in all directions, particularly laterally. So if you're looking for like the, gold standard one that you're looking for is definitely like a lateral bound, definitely a reactive lateral bound. So where you're bounding, you can bound left and right and continuously, or you can go bang, 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 bang. So you'll notice with the goalkeepers, they really need to work on that plyometric where you're bouncing off that side to go that way. So to go to the left, you're best off going right first. And that gives you a bit of rubber band effect into all your muscles. I did all my research on plyometrics. We're nuts at it. But you need then a lot of variety in those plyometrics to get you the appropriate response. But very much plyometric, very much if you're looking for the gold standard for goalies, would be very lateral.
That's amazing, and it's a great feedback. Now, this is a great question. I love this one. This is from Carlos Alves.
Yeah.
Now, is it relevant, and what training should a 10-year-old be doing? Should they be doing things like weight training stuff, or how do you adapt your program for a 10-year-old?
Yeah, so my son started lifting when he was 10, but he started speed training when he was 8. We don't generally do strength training at 10. So typically, here's the interesting fact. Girls, I would start strength training with girls earlier than boys. Part of the reason is it really helps their bone density. But the other reason why girls can do strength training earlier than boys is because they're more mature in the head. So they won't go off on a tangent. They kind of keep their attraction. So for boys, the boys that are 10 years old, absolutely the biggest thing for me would be speed training. But a lot of times it's they haven't hit their peak height velocity in terms of growth. So I would like to build some of those habits like trigger pointing. 10-year-olds usually get severs. So I'd like to prevent severs. So we would definitely trigger point the sides of their hip. And we'd try and make sure that severs actually would never happen in the first place by incorporating some habits to make sure that doesn't happen. But at 10 years old, my number one thing is running form.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, next question we've got. It's from Ethan Rollison. I play 3 times a week and train in the gym, but what should I do to specifically improve pace? Now, before you answer that one, I'm just going to just speak to Ethan as well. Guys, remember, we've covered this one and there's a video and we will get Shelley to reshare the link to it. But if you're only training 3 times a week, guys, that's not enough. Remember, we work on the +130. So if you're 12 years of age, you should be doing 13 hours a week of training, and we'll reach out to Ethan separately on this one. But I'll tell you now, guys, if you're only training 3 times a week and doing 1 gym session, that's not enough to make it as a pro player. You need to make sure you're doing the required amount of hours. So just on that one, back to that one, Stu, what specifically should they be doing to improve pace? Is there any little tips or tricks you can give players to work on?
Yeah, so when we incorporate view motion into the video analysis of movement, it'll give us angles. So one of the biggest things that they found in their latest research is big shapes is really important. So when you're doing speed, you need like lots of separation of your thighs and you need big separation of your arms. So range of motion is really important. So if you've got any tightness, it'll really affect how you run. You start rotating, it starts really messing with you. So good range would be really big. If you're looking for a strength type thing, then hip flexors, where you pick up your knees, anything which builds up the hip flexor strength. There's a positive correlation between hip flexor strength and running speed. If you want to run fast, your hip flexors need to be strong. If you want to run fast, you need to create big shapes. So that means you have to be flexible. That doesn't mean you need to stretch a ton. You just need to do trigger points and everything and make sure you got big shapes every day when you're doing your speed work.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, also what we're going to do is as well, we are going to give a prize away as well tonight, Stuart. So the best question that you get asked, we're going to give a Champions League ball to as well. So keep posting them questions in, guys. And if Stuart's okay, we've probably got another 10 or 15 minutes to go. So next question. How many times a week should you train plyometrics, and is it different based on age? Great
That's
question.
a really good question. I generally don't like any more than 2 days a week of plyometrics. The thing about it is this is actual true plyometric training. This is lower body as such, because running is quite plyometric in itself as well. So typically in our programming, we'd only do 2 plyometric training sessions a week, but they're quite intensive, don't forget. And you would start at low level, and it actually doesn't really matter about how old the person is. Just kind of the law of physics or whatever is, or the law of how the body recovers and so forth. You need to start at low level plyometrics and slowly build up. So to give you an idea, skipping rope is very low plyometrics. Then maybe some type of light vertical jump is, or tuck jump is like moderate level. Then you got higher level stuff is where you're dropping off a box and jumping up. That's very high level. And if you do anything, it's like low reps into higher, slightly higher reps, and then go from low to moderate to high level. And you need to go through waves throughout the year. So you basically do one level for a month, then next level for a month, the next level for a month, then have a month off. And it needs to tie in with, you know, all your football throughout a week. Hopefully that answered it for you.
Amazing. I love that question. That was a great question. Now, next question. Stuart, what would you recommend a 15-year-old girl do to become faster and more explosive? She currently plays in the midfield area. And also, is there anything you can help us to lower the amount of injuries?
Yeah, so with girls in particular, I obviously grew up professionally in America. So in the 90s, about 50% of my conferences, so you got 3 days of conference, a day and a half would be devoted just to ACL injury reduction / rehab. And the big reason why girls do their ACLs a lot more than boys is their condyloids are a little bit closer together in their knee, and they're not weak in the hamstrings. They're generally pretty strong, but they generally don't fire early enough. The other issue is a bit of a Q angle. So they've just got to work harder than the boys to prevent ACLs, as an example. That would be my big preference, would be to work on that, making sure to stabilize that knee. How we do that is by doing pattern agility. Just got some cones and you're cutting around those cones and using good mechanics to run around the cones, which is obviously what we're big at. That improves the inter-muscle coordination to make sure the ACL is less likely to get hurt. The strength training in that is a given. So obviously you need to get the strength training done to make sure the hamstring is strong. Why the hamstring is important is when it contracts, it actually directly assists the ACL to prevent it from tearing. So hamstring strength or leg strength, then followed by pattern agility, really makes a big difference to the 15-year-old athlete.
That's phenomenal. Now, just one I did want to touch on and speak on was, I think I mentioned this here, but it's an interesting one because we get a lot of fight back from our players and families on this. But there was a really interesting study and research in the Premier League, and they were doing the beep test. And that they discovered from players aged 8 and 9 who started doing the beep test 2 to 3 times a week, not only was it helping them with the certain movements of accelerating and pushing off, but also decelerating. But also what they discovered was they actually discovered on the group of players they'd done a study with who'd done 2 to 3 beep tests a week against players who didn't. The chance of an ACL injury was nearly 30% higher if they were in the playing group that wasn't doing the beep test. And I think when I went through a little bit of the research, the guys were from Loughborough Uni. They said was as the body was growing and going through that puberty change, because they were building up that strength and adherence to the acceleration and deceleration, it was actually basically limiting the amount of opportunity to get any injuries in that ACL injury. So that was really interesting from us, from the football world.
Yeah, so that's I suppose we do heaps of beep tests ourselves, but we don't do a lot of aerobic conditioning at acceleration centers just because people tend to pay for our expertise in movement. But there's lots of fitness work in our online program. So people should do the fitness. The reason why that works, Ray, is because a lot of ACLs are done in a fatigued state. If the players are doing consistently fitness work, that's boring. No one wants to do it, right? You're running up and down, but you're getting acceleration out of the turns. You're getting a deceleration into the turn. You're doing it under fatigue, so you're very accustomed to it. Therefore, you can play through some levels of fatigue, but you're probably not even playing to fatigue because you're so used to it. The reason why that works is it's very simple. Plus, players can't hide. They can hide in small-sided games, and I love small-sided games. They're fantastic because it's ball at feet. They're getting more skillful, but you can't hide from work. Anyone who wants to hide from work, they're just fooling themselves. They're not going to make it. And I tried to do it, mate, many years ago, about 1998. I tried to do, or 97, 98. I tried to make conditioning fun, and I just gave up. Like I said to the players, you just can't make it fun, mate. Like, the fun is winning. The fun is performing at a high level. Let's embrace the fact that you don't like conditioning and that you're doing something that you don't like to do so you can go and kick everyone else's butt later on. So I really fully believe that study not only is effective probably scientifically, it's very effective psychologically, and there is actually science about why it's actually worked, Ray.
Yeah, I love it. And this is one of the big things that we spoke about in the Premier League, and that was the exact same words, was that it's not always going to be fun, and you're kidding yourself if you think it is, but this is the way it should be. And it's not for everyone, but if you apply yourself and if you support your son and daughter through this journey, let's say you get to the 35 and you retire and you've had a great successful career financially, you've set yourself up for like the next 50, 60 years of your life are going to be fun. One, because you've formed healthy habits. Two, financially, you can pretty much choose to do anything you want to do in life. And for me, as a parent, I couldn't think of anything better for my two daughters to do than to be able to have the ability in your mid-30s to go, do you know what? I'm actually going to set up a foundation. I'm going to do charity work, because you can do all this amazing stuff because financially you've set yourself up for life. And but the key message is do the hard yards early and it all gets rewarded later on in life, doesn't it?
It does, but life is like, it's a full journey. There actually isn't a destination. Like, if you think it's a destination, you just get very disappointed. I don't know if any of you guys have been through this already, is that you have this season and you win a championship and then you're like, yeah, golf clap, like that's great. And then you go, what's next? You know? So the goals shouldn't be about specifically, you always have goals, but everything's about the journey. And I'm really big, Ray, on those things that they learn in the process of trying to become a professional player or trying to become, achieve their goal in football, whatever that is that if they can learn a lot in terms of trying to achieve that goal, they're going to then apply that to whatever degree they want to do, whatever career they want to move into later on, because they live for a lot longer. You work for a lot longer after you finish playing sport. And nothing bad can come from it. Let's put it that way.
Nah, that's cool. Now, next question. Can you give us one stretch that's good and that can help us improve hip and groin flexibility? So if you can think of a name of a stretch, and then maybe Daniel, who sent that question in, can maybe Google or YouTube that one. But is there one that comes to mind that you think's really specifically good to improve hip and groin flexibility?
Yeah, look, probably the one that sticks in my mind is just a deep squat. So you literally in China, you don't sit on a toilet in China. You actually do a deep squat to go to the toilet, and they have a lot less issues through the hips than European countries and so forth, athletes. So a deep squat, and you draw a figure of 8, and from that position, that's actually a natural position that you should be able to handle for a period of time. So we do a deep squat, and then we draw a figure of 8, and then we draw a figure of 8 the other direction. And that, to me, fully loosens off the groin, fully loosens off the hip. But you got to remember, flexibility is not necessarily just about stretching time. A bit of tension is good. Tension is intelligent. Attention is actually part of life. So that, while like that one in particular, is that you've still got the groin on stretch and under tension at the same time.
Amazing. Now we've got our last couple of questions, because I know we've got to let you go, and we've got another call to get on ourselves as well at 11 a.m. UK time. So next question is, we've got 2 more to go. Besides soccer training, I do running and boxing and gym. I'm still not very flexible. Is there anything that you can recommend to help specifically with flexibility in general?
Yeah, we do a lot of mobility stuff, but we do a lot of trigger pointing. So we trigger point to help with joint centralization. What that means is a lot of times to release your hamstring. So if you lie on your back and then you raise your leg up straight, see how far your leg can go. If you can stick a tennis ball or a trigger ball into the front of your hip, right in front of your hip, and lie on your front, a lot of times that will actually push the head of the femur back into the center. Joint center is very important. And if you actually recenter your hip by lying on the ball, it's either a tennis ball, gold standard's a cricket ball, we use spiky balls and so forth. Just lie in your front of your hip, which is around your hip flexor area where your pocket is. And you do that on both hips, then retest the straight leg raise, you'll find your hamstring flexibility improves dramatically. Once you get the concept that it's not about stretching the muscle, it's about affecting the body in different ways, as in some people get very tight through the neck, they release their neck, it actually helps their hamstring. Some people, they roll out the bottoms of their feet, it releases their hamstring. Some people it's the hip flexor, some people it's trigger point the hamstring, but pretty much the hip flexor one works really well.
Yeah, I can testament to that. My daughter's done the trigger point with the ball for a couple of years now, and I think she first got introduced to it by you guys, and it's been a game changer for her because she's tall like me, and yeah, I could definitely highly recommend the trigger point, guys. Now the final one, and I'm gonna jump in and answer this a little bit as well, but also I'll let you finish off. So my son's currently involved in 3 sports: basketball, AFL, and football. Should we drop the rest to concentrate on soccer? This is his passion. And should he be doing soccer 11 hours a week? So, guys, remember our split, and on the £1.6 billion project, we worked on the findings from Loughborough Uni and the other study cases that we've done. It was your plus 130, but of that plus one, if you are 11 and you're doing 12 hours a week, you need to do 70% specific to your sport, which is football. And then the other 30% was non-specific. But I'd be interested to see what Stewart's take on that is, if it's close or if it's a million miles apart, or what you've discovered over the years, Stu.
No, it's great. I don't know what age this athlete is. He's 10 years
I would
old.
say this athlete will be 10 years
10.
of age if they're
Yeah.
doing 11 hours a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lou mentions he's 10. 10 is young. I would definitely play AFL, basketball, and football. I definitely had my son play football first. Football soccer is the most foundational sport in the world. It makes your basketball better, your footwork gets better, your AFL gets better because you're a better kicker, your feet are better, they're quicker. So football to me is your foundational sport. Obviously, we're talking football high level. You do need to specialize at the age of 15. So I'm just looking at this and thinking out loud. So this is me. If I'm talking whatever, by a certain age, probably by 12, you probably need to drop either AFL or basketball. You just won't have the time. But then at the age of 15, by the age of 15, you have to have chosen football ideally, or whatever sport, because you can't devote the time to it. That's the research, and the multi-sport, multi-angle, multi-velocity is fantastic for them. That's how I would attack that.
It's crazy that you say that. So what we discovered in the Premier League was at 16 was the cap for your hours. So once you get to 16, you don't ever do more than 17 hours a week. But of that 70% that's specific to football, that 30% that is non-specific to football, which could be the basketball and AFL, actually drops to 10%.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. You've actually hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what we discovered at the Premier League level. At once they get to 15, 16, the additional sports drop down to only 10% of the week. 90% is specific to your sport. So yeah, that's a great one to finish off on. So what I'm going to ask you, Stu, before we let you go, because I know you're busy and we've got to get going as well, just to finish off, score prediction for the game tonight.
Score prediction. Wow.
I'll put you on the spot, mate.
I would probably go 2-0. Yeah.
2-0 to Madrid. I'm a little bit undecided. I'm thinking 2-1 to Madrid. Bellingham first goal, or I've got a sneaky feeling it could be a cricket score. I think it could be 4 or 5-0 to Madrid, but we'll see.
We'll see. But I reckon, And a big event like this, I mean, 2-0 is a pretty big lead regardless. So yeah, something like that, mate. It's fantastic. This has been fun. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Now, we'd love to have you back again in the next 6 to 12 months, Stuart. So a big thank you for joining us. A big thank you from Shelley and all the team back in the office in Brisbane. And a big thank you to all our players and athletes, guys. If you're staying up tonight late to watch the Champions League final, or you're going to get up early in the morning, keep an eye on the socials. We've got more giveaways, more balls, more jerseys. And we look forward to speaking to you all when we return back to Australia in the next 4 to 5 days. A big thank you from me and everyone at Professional Player Pathway. And thanks very much, Stuart, for joining us.
My pleasure, mate. I hope to meet everyone one day. So thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye.